I have honestly loved all the incredible conversations I've had with now more than 20 people in these 2 seasons of Brave Middle Ground. But today's conversation with Scott Simon sits near the very top of this remarkable lineup because it's so uplifting, practical, and real. Scott's book and movement, Scare Your Soul, challenges us to do one thing every day that scares us. Why? Because to step fully into life is to live to our fullest purpose and to model for others how they can live to their fullest purpose too.
So much of the fear that I feel like I help people walk into and through is this feeling of not being good enough. I'm just not good enough. And nobody can know it. I know it and I feel it, but I don't want anybody else to know it. Yeah. So I'm going to post that beautiful photo and I'm not going to have that hard conversation and I'm going to stay small. I'm not going to raise that issue at work. I have an idea, but I'm not going to share it because what if people don't like it or they think I'm crazy or weird or who is this person? They're not a team player and they play it small.
Hi, I'm Dayna Del Val, author, TEDx speaker, and visibility coach for leaders ready to affect change and become audaciously visible. On this podcast, I sit down with leaders from across backgrounds to explore the space where curiosity, connection, and progress meet, especially in a polarized world. Welcome to Brave Middle Ground. Scott, welcome to Brave Middle Ground.
Oh, thanks for having me. It's great to be with you.
Thanks. I'm really happy to have you here. You and I both belong to the group that Dory Clark started for people who watched or listened to that podcast. So this is my first time meeting you, although I feel like I know you pretty well because you wrote the book Scare Your Soul. And it is this really lovely combination of challenges and opportunities for the reader, but also great insight into various elements of your personal life, your professional life. So I feel like I know you, which gives me sort of an unfair advantage in this conversation.
Thanks. Yeah, it was a terrifying moment for me when I made that final decision to write a book, and I felt like there was no other way to do it than to be as vulnerable and open as I could possibly be. Yeah. And really express the sense that we're all in this together. We all have both fear and courage within us, and we all have experiences that have informed how we lead our lives. Let's put it all on the table and do this thing together.
Well, the thing that is so true in my life that absolutely supports that is that my husband and I decided 3 years into his sobriety to be very open about it. We had been virtually nobody knew. And it was one of those moments too, where right before I hit publish on that first blog post, I thought, wow, there's no going back. If one person reads this, if 1 million people read it, there's no going back once you go forward. And it was a scary moment. And it was the single greatest moment. It opened up opportunities that we just couldn't have had without choosing to share the dark side. It's not, nobody really wants to only see the Instagram A side because that's just not real for any of us.
It isn't. It isn't. And it's so hard to overcome that, especially in the moment when, do I post the beautiful photo or do I post what is really going on? Or do I have the easy conversation or do I have the conversation that I know needs to be held? And I think, if you go back to that very famous quote of Viktor Frankl, that between stimulus and response, there's a space. Mm-hmm. It's what we do in that space that I think determines a great life, a good life from an extraordinary life.
That's a great launch point to go to the question that I ask everybody to start this conversation, which is just, how do you define brave middle ground, that middle space, Scott, in whatever capacity of your life you want to define it from?
I'm just going to go there because I feel like we have to. And that is, I read, the newspaper. I read the news every day. I talk to friends that are on all different types of the or places on the political spectrum. and I feel like middle ground now is such a rare and needed place in our
Hmm.
country. And I wrote a blog post which I know you commented on, and I really urged, and this was right after the election when feelings were very, very raw. They're
Hmm.
still raw, but they were even more raw at the time, that we need to talk and understand, and we need to not demonize. And I didn't say that in a way to try to encourage people to put their firmly held beliefs to the side. It
Right.
was that if we're ever going to achieve middle ground, we have to be able to connect with one another and do it in a way of mutual respect and caring. And we all want the same goal in the end. We want
Yeah.
vibrant, passionate lives, and a country that is going to be successful, in a world where there is less fear and trauma and war. And we're not going to do that by sitting in separate camps. We're just not. It's not going to
No.
work. So what does that middle ground look like, and how do we get there? And that to me is the rich conversation and work and effort that I applaud you for leaning into, and I think we all need to lean into.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, this podcast really came out of that exact same desire. And I said to you before we hit record, I have to acknowledge that I am as much a part of the problem as a desire to be part of the solution. I have very strong feelings. There is no way somebody from the opposing side could get me to go, boy, I hadn't thought of it that way. I guess I'm going to go your direction now. There's just no way that could happen. But, and this is the important piece. Yes, there are these fundamental differences, but back to your point, what do we all want if we have children? We want them to inherit something better than what we have stepped into. We want to do our part to make the future better. We want them to have success. We want to live in a safe place. We want to find love. We want to have meaningful work. We want to be free to celebrate how we want to celebrate, worship how we want to worship, all those things. We're not all going to want to get there the same way, but you're right. We do mostly want the same things. I just was reading your email from this week. So this was recorded in the spring of 2025, but you talked about having this very difficult conversation with, I think, two other people at dinner, and the challenge of leaning into that. And I loved that you didn't say, by the end of the night, we were all better off.
Mm,
You were very clear. It was hard.
it's
It
hard.
was hard. And sometimes we are called to do the hard. And I think this is one of those times.
I think you're absolutely right. I mean, there are times where we just know that the stakes are at their highest, and I feel like this is one of those times. And I, as you know, I wrote a book about it, and I lead my life this way. It comes from a very deep place with me. I lived a big part of my life in fear and feeling invisible, and with a lack of self worth, and the ability to make an impact on the world was nil. And so I know how that feels, and I feel like there is such a pervasive sense now of just not being able to make a difference, that this
Hmm.
is just too big. And as you know from the book and how I approach life, if we can focus on small daily actions of moving the needle forward, having the tough conversations, making the tough choices, and honestly, I really believe, after doing this now for almost a decade, that once there is a sense of momentum in your life for doing the hard things, it almost becomes fun. Like it stops, it stops being the hard and uncomfortable thing all the time. It actually starts becoming a really energized thing. I talk about, I'm not a marathon runner myself, but I talk all the time about friends of mine who literally decided, I'm going to run a marathon in a year,
Hmm.
and they
Hmm.
began. The first step was buying the pair of shoes. You're right. You got
Yeah.
to, and then day after day, you get a little bit further. You build stamina. You build muscle. Some days are sunny. Some days are rainy. But if you stay committed to it and you practice and you move forward every day, at one point you will cross that finish line. And I think we all, as either Americans or humans that inhabit this earth, we owe it to ourselves to continue to push every single day.
Yeah, I that's so well said. So for people who haven't read the book, who are sitting here thinking, okay, well, I don't want to run a marathon and I sure don't want to talk politics, so I guess this isn't for me. Scott, will you tell us the beginning story of the book? Because I want to make sure that people understand that hard is not a prescribed path. Hard is however you define it. You tell your story, and then I'm going to tell you what my first action was after I read that story.
Okay, so just a little bit of a backstory. When I was 10, in fourth grade, I was part of a choir concert, and the choir teacher actually said to me, I'm going to give you a solo line in a song. It was a song called 76 Trombones, if anybody
Oh,
knows
the
that
Music
song.
Man.
It's from the Music Man. And I was given this solo line. The entire grade started, and when it came around to me, I couldn't eke out a syllable. And instead of continuing on with the rest of the grade, he started over. He started over not once, not twice, but actually three times, and was so upset with me that he marched towards me and basically screamed into my face, clearly you can't sing, just mouth the words for the rest of the year.
I'm so upset with that teacher. I can hardly think straight.
I hear you, but I'm gonna tell you that I think although that story silenced me for many decades, it was because of that story that something really magical happened. So I had spent this childhood. I was unfortunately I was bullied growing up. For anybody listening that either was bullied or they have kids or grandkids that were bullied, there's so much shame that's around it and fear, and I felt all of those things. I was finally given the opportunity to lead almost like a new life when I was invited to teach English to Holocaust survivors in a low-income neighborhood of Tel Aviv when I was 21. And I said yes to it, which was shocking when I look back on it, that all of us have had moments in our lives when we said yes when everything else was screaming, say no. That was mine. I had a panic attack on the flight over, and I wrote 8 words on a spiral notebook, this royal blue spiral notebook, and the 8 words continue to change my life to this day. And the 8 words were, do one thing every day that scares you. And I did. For that year abroad, I literally did one tiny little thing, and that could have been just going to the post office or getting on a bus or saying hello to a stranger, but it built momentum and confidence. And I had the best year of my entire life. It changed everything. And I continued to practice it. I ended up meeting some wonderful teachers, a wonderful guy at Harvard, Tal Ben-Shahar, who teaches positive psychology. And I decided at one point that I was going to tackle this monkey that was on my shoulder of this fear of singing because of this story that had been given to me when I was 10. And so I grabbed an acoustic guitar and I found the busiest restaurant in my city and I sang in front of about 100 strangers. And I have to tell you, it was probably one of the most powerful, freeing moments of my entire life. It took 7 minutes for me to transcend 35 years of fear. And I came home and I wrote a Facebook post about it, which went viral. And that night I started an organization called Scare Your Soul. And it has been one of the blessings of my life to be able to immerse myself into what does courage look like, not for me, but for all of you. And if we can do this work together, if we can be just 1% more courageous every day, more open, more connecting, bring better ideas and braver ideas to other people, have tougher conversations, show love more openly, have conversations with people we deeply disagree with, this is going to be a better world. And I believe it in my bones. And that to me has been what my journey has been for the past 10 years, and it continues to get more vibrant and interesting by the day.
Yeah, it's such a great story. First of all, because for so many people, performance of any kind is just debilitating and many people's worst fears. But 7 minutes, it's not like you said, I'm going to book out a concert hall and I'm going to charge ticket money. You did this, on one hand, very small thing. I mean, people perform all the time. Nobody even needed to pay attention to you if they didn't want to. You weren't demanding anything of anybody else except yourself. And I love that you say, it started out pretty rocky. I was nervous. I was quiet. And as people started to pay attention and started to, I think, feel your nervousness and bravery, they began to cheer you on because, again, if you had started from a place of with a bullhorn, who's a Republican and who's a Democrat, you would have immediately polarized at least half of the crowd. But it wasn't about that. It was about music. And so that doesn't matter what your political affiliation is.
And you're absolutely right to bring up the point that when I began, first of all, I don't have a great singing voice. And I think for me that makes the point even more compelling, that people cheered me on not because I sounded like Paul Simon. I sounded like Scott Simon. Big difference. and and I think we root on the underdog in our lives. Like every movie that we watch, we root on the person that needs to overcome. It's like the hero's journey, right?
Yeah.
We don't begin as the hero.
Right.
We have a journey, we have a quest, we have challenges, we have mountains to climb. That was one of my mountains. And I know now in Scare Your Soul there have been so many thousands of participants in what we do, that it is different for every person. And while singing in front of a restaurant was something that I needed to do to help complete my soul and to put me on this path, for other people it may mean having that hard conversation. Or as a woman told me the other day in Seattle, she's the CEO of a company. Her work life could not be more powerful and confident. And she said to me, I'm going to take a dance class when I get back home. And because she used to dance when she was young and she hasn't done it and she doesn't feel competent, but she knows that it's going to bring her so much joy. And getting over that feeling of being a beginner again, that was her thing. And the entire room applauded. How amazing is that?
Yeah. Yeah. And think of the joy she will re-experience. Whether she takes one class or does it for the rest of her life, it will be transformational. And what's so incredible is I don't think this is even all that expected or important to the work. I think the work is to say, I will try this for my soul. But she will become a better leader. She'll become a better CEO. She will become a better human because she will be able to share this scary story with other people. And it will suddenly make her not the person who sits at the top of the mountain, but the human who is interacting with someone else. And that is what I think is the virality of this challenge that you put out to people, is how can we just be better humans with and amongst each other?
Absolutely. And it then extends, it's like ripples in a pond, to being a better parent, being a better leader, as you just said. She will be so much more effective as a CEO, being able to bring that perspective, that story, that experience to her colleagues, her coworkers, her employees, because you're absolutely right. And this, of course, transcends to politics as well. When we feel hope and belief in other people, not because they've got a great resume, or they have a slogan that makes us fear other people and like them more. It's because we identify with them. It's
Hmm.
because we see their humanity, and that is really what connects people. And we all know it, but we live in this society that is so focused on sound bites of fear and of polarization and of difference, and or of not being good enough. You need to buy this
Oh.
product or do this thing so that you can be as good as everybody else you see on Instagram.
Hmm.
And I think our message is exactly counter that. That you actually have all of those things already. Like they're already inside of you. And my job, I think, is just to remind people that they have it, that they have these choices and abilities. Yes, I sang in front of a restaurant. You have the ability today, tomorrow, to do what you need to do, and
Hmm.
and to continue it. And it is going to lead to greater connection and greater love and greater creativity and all the things that we all want and make us happy in the end anyway.
Yeah. Yes. Okay, so I have to tell you my story because I feel like your job is to collect the stories. I don't know why this is a thing in my life because I actually actively dislike it. But I would say for maybe 30 years, I have thought multiple times a day about doing a cartwheel. I don't know why. We did some or some gymnastic segments in junior high gym where I 1 year thankfully had my appendix taken out, so I missed the entire session of gymnastics, which was great because it makes me feel kind of car sick and I'm terrible at it and all these things. But for whatever reason, multiple times a day, I envision myself doing a cartwheel, and
Okay.
I've never done one. Never. So I'm rereading your book last week to get ready for this interview. And I thought, okay, what's the smallest thing you can do to move from thinking to doing? So here's what I did. I crouched down. I put my left hand on the ground. I put my right hand on the ground and I hopped over myself to the best of my ability. I didn't even attempt a cartwheel. I just attempted that, which was 75% further than anything I've thought about doing for 30 years. And it was unbelievably ungraceful. I mean, I was very glad nobody else saw it. It was awkward.
Yeah.
It didn't make me feel good or bad, but it did make me say, okay, I stopped wondering if I can even do this. And I made some kind of stab at it. And it somehow sort of just made me mentally say, I don't think I need to keep wondering if I can do a cartwheel. I think I can just let it go.
Yes.
I, I'm here to tell you, Scott, I don't know that I'll ever actually try a
Yeah.
whole cartwheel.
Yeah.
I don't care. It's like it lifted off this weird brain obsession that has taken up space and energy and sort of just made me say, oh, yeah, I don't actually have to try that. I can focus on something else. It was one of the most unusual and thoughtful experiences I've probably ever had in my life.
I cannot tell you how meaningful that story is. It is exactly what the work of my life is all about, what you did. And I applaud you. Thank you for sharing that, not with me, but with anybody who's
Yes.
listening to this, that you don't need to do the cartwheel. What you need to do is take a small step forward towards
Yeah.
something that is holding you back. And and you may decide that this is not what I need to do, but you have taken a step forward, and you did exactly what I advocate, which is taking the literally the smallest micro step
Yeah.
forward. And we could go into, you and I could talk for the next 3 hours about James Clear and Atomic Habits, or
Yes.
Albert Bandura and Guided Mastery, where he helped people overcome phobias of snakes, or of BJ Fogg and tiny habits and being able to find the smallest action, literally putting your feet on the floor could be a small action that leads
Mm-hmm.
to a goal. But you did it. You
Yeah.
absolutely did it. And now, 3 times a day, you can use that mental space for something else. You can
Yes.
do it to
Yes.
love and to care and to read and to and that won't be there for you anymore. And how special and powerful is that?
Yeah. It was what I think was surprising to me was I consider myself to be a risk taker, to be brave, I mean, I've done lots of vulnerable things in my life, but even I needed someone else to say to me, it's okay. I'm here. You can do it. Your book makes it feel like you're in the room with me. And so, while I'm not sure if you were in my sunroom, I would have said to you, Scott, watch me try this kind of embarrassing, weird bunny hop thing I'm going to do. But, but it was like the essence of you was there holding my hand and giving me permission to say, just try it. And I wasn't sure if what was going to happen was what did happen, which was to sort of release this thing, or if I would say, oh my gosh, okay, what's the next step?
Yes.
So it was such a curious moment of positive curiosity. Not There was no negativity around it. I didn't even care that I looked like a moron. It was
Yes.
irrelevant to me. Again, I didn't do it in public, but I probably would now
Yes.
because what do I care? Go ahead and laugh. I'm sure it's funny to look at. I'm sure I looked funny. Go ahead and laugh. We need more places to laugh. And if I'm laughing with you, it's not even mean spirited if you're laughing at me. It's fine.
Exactly. Exactly. And so you just in one small story, which wasn't so small for you, but the
Yeah.
story is a specific thing that you did. You have exemplified what I believe a an audacious, flourishing life is all about. One where we are not harnessed in by what I call toxic fear, which
Hmm.
is the fear of ruminating and what's going to happen in the future. Am I going to be rejected? Am I going to be embarrassed? Am I going to fail? All of those things that are not really about our safety. They're about our minds telling us that there could be a possible bad outcome somewhere. And that stops us from leading a life where, you know what? Who cares if somebody laughs? And if they do, they're probably laughing with us. When I sang in front of that restaurant and people heard me croak out my first few verses, I guarantee you they weren't thinking this is this beautiful thing. There was a little bit of laughter. There was a little bit of uncomfortable confusion. What's going on here? Why is this guy doing this? Within 30 seconds, they were cheering me. There was a young kid that came and threw a dollar bill in my guitar case, and everybody
I
started
love that.
laughing. I mean, and and that's what I think, when we look at people who've really created massive social change or they have brought people together in massive ways, they have taken risks. It wasn't
Hmm.
a comfortable road where they knew what the outcome was going to be. And when we start to take these small actions, and my whole book is, I think, an exploration into what those things can be for us. It's like almost like a great Chinese menu. Take a little bit from column A and a little bit from column B and a little bit from column C. Whatever works for you, try the exercises, plug into what your values are and what excites you, and then get started. And I got a call the other day from the head of a financial firm who said to me that he was working his way through the book and he had done some of the first exercises, and one of the things that came out of it was he needed to get out there and do something physical, that he stays in the office, and so he went to a local park and he rode a bike for probably the first time in 20 years. He got home and it was like he had gotten an award from, the Financial Planners of America or something. That's how great he felt.
Yeah.
I didn't do it for him, but it was this little spark of inspiration to do that thing that he just felt uncomfortable doing. And he did it. And I guarantee you this, he will do something again tomorrow and the next day and the next day. And it will all lead to things that he doesn't even know about yet, but those doors will
Yeah.
be opened.
Yeah, the permission factor, the kind invitation factor, I think is part of what makes it so compelling, and also part of what makes you feel so present in the book. Again, to go back, you share a lot of vulnerability, and so it makes it feel like, well, gal, if this guy can share this, I guess I can try something that might not work. I can put myself out there. I can take a risk too, because you sort of want to return the favor,
Oh,
even if you're never going to find out about it.
that is honestly such a beautiful thought, and that's so meaningful. When I began writing the book, I had a big decision to make, and it was, do I adopt a voice of the wise sage who has
Hmm.
done all of the research for you, and I'm going to give you a top 10, a enumerated list of what you should do to be, which many books, and very good ones,
Yep.
self-help books do. I've read hundreds. Or do I sit beside you? Do I stand beside you?
Hmm.
And I made that decision, I think, on the first day of opening up my laptop and beginning to write, that I was going to bring my full self to this so that when you read it, you feel like I am there. And I
Hmm.
can guarantee you this, my spirit is there. And I put my email address in the book,
Hmm.
and I have people that email me every single day.
Yeah.
I received an email not that long ago from an 82-year-old woman who told me that her friends invited her to play pickleball,
Okay.
and her response to them by email was that she wasn't feeling well, and she sent the email and she got back into bed and she thought about the book, and she got out of bed and she emailed her friends, I'm actually fine, come pick me up. And she went. The fact that she loved it is almost inconsequential. She did
Yes.
love it, but the fact that she was afraid of looking silly, she had never
Hmm.
done it before. Her friends were experts. She loved it, and even more importantly, she did it
Hmm.
and sent me that email. And I have to tell you, those are like nuggets of gold for me.
Yeah.
I love it so much, and I know that that little thing that she did will lead to probably another brave act the next day and the next day, and then she'll tell a friend, and I'm here telling you, and I'm
Uh-huh.
amplifying her story. So all of you that are hearing it, you now know that it doesn't have to be jumping out of an airplane or quitting a
Hmm.
job, or leaving a relationship. It could be small things done daily, that lead to this audacious, fun, optimistic, hopeful, adventurous life that we all can lead.
Yeah. Yeah. It's incredible. Absolutely incredible. So I want to just talk through some areas of this book. First of all, let's go to the raisin example, because I really love this idea. I am someone who pays a lot of attention to detail, and I got to tell you, this was so specific that without even having one in my hand, I did the exercise, and it was really profound. So talk people through this little assignment that you do with people, please.
Sure, I'll tell you the assignment first, and then I'll tell you the payoff of the assignment. So we've all popped a raisin in our mouths, and we were doing it while we were reading or watching TV or thinking about something else. And the assignment in the book is to begin by thinking about where this raisin came from, the genesis of this raisin, where this grape was grown, maybe in Mexico, maybe somewhere else, but on a vine and in the sunshine with rain feeding it, and then the journey as kind of strange as this may sound, the journey that this raisin took to getting to you, how who harvested it, how was it dried in the sun, what strain of raisin is it, and how is it cultivated, right? How is it transported to get to you? How did it land in your kitchen, right? Who was involved in that whole process, getting it to you? And then once you have that raisin in your hand, what does it look like? What is the color, the texture? How does the light play off of the ridges in this raisin? And then, instead of just popping it in your mouth, placing it in your mouth and really tasting it. Does it taste sweet? Is there a bit of sourness to it? Does it remind you of an experience that you had sometime in your life when you were eating a piece of fruit and something magical happened? And then when you finish, kind of a sense of gratitude that this grape that was grown many, many miles away from you is now something that you have experienced. And when you go through this experience of taking what is something that you usually pop in your mouth and take it for granted, it almost becomes majestic. And I say that, with reverence. It becomes a majestic thing. And what this leads to is what A.J. Heschel called radical amazement. This sense of leading life, not just walking outside and walking to the mailbox or picking up the phone and calling a coworker or a friend, but looking at our lives the same way I just described looking at that raisin, with a sense of absolute amazement. And to do so requires getting ourselves out of our rut, getting ourselves out of the habitual things that we do every single day. And it leads to a great sense of awe. This is all about this beautiful feeling of awe, which is in some ways feeling smaller, right? We're a part of a larger enterprise universally, but also feeling deeply connected to the earth, to others, to beauty, to the senses. And I have done this with audiences many, many times where I literally hand out raisins. They must think I'm absolutely nuts when I do it. But by the time we're done, there is this beautiful sense of, well, if I could feel majesty in a raisin, I can certainly feel a sense of majesty in my life. And I think it connects to this larger issue of, can we be brave enough to have a sense of awe, to remove ourselves from the hero of the movie role that we oftentimes place, right? We're everything kind of revolves around us. And I think it's really easy to lead life that way, right? But to start to see ourselves as an appreciator, as opposed to somebody who's in the driver's seat. And I really believe, and this was one of the things that came out of my writing in the book, that once we start to have this beautiful sense of awe and gratitude in our lives, which does take a sense of courage, we start really appreciating life in its beautiful details. So that's the raisin.
Yeah, I love all of that. And what it also did for me, it contextualized me in the continuum of humanity. I started to imagine the person who owned the vineyard. Then I imagined the people who were picking it. Then I imagined the people who were drying it, transporting it, packing it, placing it on the shelf, checking me out at the grocery store, all of those people. And I think I had never exactly considered how many hands are responsible for something that, quite frankly, most people leave. If they get a box of raisins, you're like, oh, geez, I kind of wanted a candy bar, not a box of raisins. I think we kind of dismiss the raisin as opposed to lift it up. Your idea of something that insignificant having this incredible majesty, it it really humanized the process of how we exist, how we literally live in this world. I can't grow grapes. Well, I guess I can grow some kinds of grapes in North Dakota, but I'm not growing raisins, the grapes that become raisins. So without all those people, I don't even have access to raisins, much less get to enjoy the taste and the flavor and all those pieces of it. It had this just deeply reverential human component to it that I was really struck by. So my question to you as I was reading it was, what made you think to elevate a raisin to this beautiful position in the first place?
I think for the exact reason that you just raised, which it is normally something we either discard or literally pop into our mouths without thinking. And I think, anyone listening can use this as a metaphor for those things in their lives that they do without thinking, without appreciating, because our brains really work towards efficiency, right? We can't pay attention to everything all the time. So our brains kind of narrow our focus and we begin to do things almost automatically. Think about the times when you get in your car and you drive somewhere, or you hop on a subway and you drive, and literally you get there and the time has gone. You don't remember
Yeah.
turning on your blinker. You don't remember putting your hands on the steering wheel. You don't remember turning on your radio. All of a sudden, you're at your destination. And I think leading a flourishing, passionate life means paying attention.
So how do you balance that against the cultural message of go, 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 drive, 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 succeed, 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 and again, post the highlight reel because that's how you become successful?
Yeah, I mean that's such an essential question. I think once you dip your toe into it, there's no going back. I think once you realize it is something that it's such a beautiful way to lead life, and oftentimes we reserve it to moments of very rare mindfulness where we're in some place, maybe we're in a religious setting or we're attending a funeral and somebody says, let's close our eyes or let's have a moment of silence for something, and you actually take a deep breath and there's a moment of silence. To cultivate that on a consistent basis is hard. We have to make space for it. And as you said, society doesn't exactly encourage us to take that time to have that level of appreciation, to feel that sense of connectedness in a world that in many ways thrives on separating us, whether we're talking politics or we're talking marketing and sales of products. All that stuff thrives on us feeling separate from one another, and we're not enough. So much of the fear that I feel like I help people walk into and through is this feeling of not being good enough. I'm just not good enough. And nobody can know it. I know it and I feel it, but I don't want anybody else to know it.
Yeah.
So I'm going to post that beautiful photo, and I'm not going to have that hard conversation, and I'm going to stay small. I'm not going to raise that issue at work. I have an idea, but I'm not going to share it because what if people don't like it, or they think I'm crazy or weird, or who is this person? They're not a team player, and they play it small. And I think once you start leading your life paying beautiful attention, when you start having, as A.J. Heschel called it, radical amazement. I love that term,
I
radical.
love that too.
Not just amazement, it's radical amazement.
Yep.
We start accessing parts of our lives that give us joy and give us more opportunities for bravery and courage. And I think it's just, this is the practice. My book and the field that I love to be in is not a quick fix world. It's just not. No one should buy my book if they want to solve their problems in 10 minutes and want to get braver in 10 minutes and want to start leading life more joyously in 10 minutes. But you can take the first step in 10 minutes. And
Yeah.
that builds and that works the muscle, and you start building. One thing we haven't really talked about is when you start leading what I call a scare your soul life, you start to build a community around you. People start to see you making different decisions. You start entering places and spaces that you were not in before. And people start to support you in ways that you never expected. And I love that. And I think one of the real benefits of the Scare Your Soul community that we've put together is people support one another as we're doing these small acts of bravery. And oh my gosh, accountability and support are so important in life. To feel like we're not in this alone and we're not forging ahead up the mountain alone, but there's a tribe of people that are doing the exact same thing is really special.
You know what I kept thinking about as I was listening to you talk is I was imagining the people who have beautiful wedding china that they use at Thanksgiving and never any other time of year.
Yeah.
Get your damn wedding china out and use it on a Tuesday,
Yes.
because it presumably it brought you some joy when you picked it. It feels special. Yes, it's a pain. You probably aren't going to put it in the dishwasher, which means you have to hand wash it. But here's what I love about using, we don't have wedding china, but I have my great great grandma's china. Conversations happen when you're standing at the sink, one of you with hands in soapy water and one of you with a towel, that don't happen any other time because you can't have your phone in your hand. And so what it does is it invites you to be in conversation, either about something going on or something you're thinking about. Also, you're not looking at each other. So it might be the place that you can have a hard conversation because your eye contact is focused on the dish and the drying. That feels to me like a great first step that many people could try. And it actually does everything you just talked about, this radical amazement. There's a big difference between eating dinner on paper plates, your everyday plates, and your china. There is a big difference. Your body language changes, the way you treat the dishes changes, how you talk at dinner changes, everything changes.
Yes.
And it's absolutely nothing at all except an inanimate object that ultimately serves the same purpose as any other version of a plate. And yet it changes everything.
It does. It absolutely does. And I love that idea. There is a lot of Zen Buddhist discussion around washing dishes and like literally immersing ourselves in that tactile feeling of hot water and soap and a dish. And I love the idea of your good china on a Tuesday. That is exactly in the Scare Your Soul mindset, which is get out of your rut. Try
Yeah.
something new. Live life in a special way. And does it take a little bit more effort? Sure it does. You're not going to put that in a dishwasher, or you're not going to throw it away the way you would a paper plate. But think about the memory that you're generating. Think about
Yeah.
the conversations you'll have while you're pulling out that china. Maybe you're even honoring the memory of the grandmother who bought that china in the first place or was gifted it for her wedding. And think about the feelings of awe and connection in that moment. And can we do that over and over and over again in our lives in all these kind of magical ways? And it just takes a little bit of effort every single day to do that new thing, to try that new thing. Many people will know, if they know Scare Your Soul, one of our kind of classic challenges is to buy a cup of coffee for a stranger and have a brief conversation with them, which I think I've done, I don't know, maybe I've done it 100 times. It's kind of like it's become almost like a mantra for me. And you never know what's going to happen. There's always this sense of almost like magical uncertainty, because I don't know how it's going to go. Is the person, what are they going to say? What is that conversation going to be like? What kind of either joy or confusion is going to be created? And I love that so much because it's an act of service, right? You're doing something for somebody else. There's a sense of beautiful curiosity. There's a beautiful sense of trying something new. And if we were able to do little things like that every single day, just think about what our lives will look like in 1 month, 6 months, a year. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, you're right. It's not a 10-minute transformation from 0 to 100, but it is a 10-minute transformation from 0 to 1. I have a good friend who's a retired internal medicine doctor, and she herself is a really serious diabetic. And so when she's dealing with, or when she was dealing with patients who were diabetic, she would say to them, "Can you walk to the end of your driveway? Just start that way. You don't need to run a marathon this afternoon. Just walk to the end of your driveway, and
Yes.
maybe in a week you'll walk to your neighbor's driveway." I mean, nothing happens overnight that is actually meaningful. It's all the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step, or whatever that phrase is.
Yeah. Yes.
There's so much truth to it, and we throw it away as if it's sort of silly or juvenile or childish to say it, but it is actually the only way any change happens.
It really is. And what I loved, almost my favorite part of the book, is I'm able to share stories of other people's
Yes.
journeys
Yes.
in their words. I was blessed by 13 people who shared their stories, and it gives us not only inspiration, which I'm thrilled that it does, it gives us license to begin doing those things in our own lives, because we see it isn't about those huge grand strokes, and it certainly isn't about sitting on the couch and watching Netflix and numbing out. And it is about those 0 to 1 actions that we can do, we should do, we must do if we're going to live the life that we are destined to lead.
Yeah.
And it's just such an honor to witness those actions and hear those stories. I really feel like it's my job to continue to tell them and to continue to encourage people to do this work and to lead these lives that are brave, and that bring us together as opposed to separating us.
You say towards the end, to be happy and fulfilled, I needed to live a life dedicated to service, one in which I strive to make people's lives better. And what's so lovely about that is we all have that opportunity. I mean, to hold a door for someone actually is the ripple that then gets them to do something to them, to them, to them, to them. It's not about these huge, massive things. I mean, I don't know how many more ways I need to say that. I guess probably people are getting it. But I do think that we often think, well, if I can't do something impactful or meaningful, I shouldn't do anything at all. And that is just simply not true. If you think about the small things someone has done for you, when you're in the bathroom as a woman and someone says, "Wow, I love your shoes." Okay, that can carry me for the rest of the day. That's nothing. That woman was out nothing to tell me she loved my shoes, but you better believe I loved hearing it. That's a
Absolutely.
nothing, tiny little moment of ripple.
Beautiful and so true. And we have those options and opportunities every single day. And once we start doing them and doing them with consistency and love and intention, it becomes not just a practice, it becomes who we are.
Yes.
You become that person who comments on people's shoes and
Yeah.
gives them a ride for the rest of the day. That is you.
Yep.
And who doesn't want to live life that way? Like, I want to be that human. And so it becomes a way of leading life where you're fulfilling your greatest potential, and you're doing it in a way that serves other people. And my gosh, what could be a better way to lead life?
Yeah, the bravery, I think, is actually deciding that you are worthy of being the rock that starts the ripple.
Yeah. Yeah. I think,
Because I think so often we have that thought. I see something about someone and think, oh, I should tell them. And then you think, oh, they don't want to hear that from me. Or who am I to say that? Or who am I to try that? Or stop talking yourself out of it. You are denying not just yourself the joy, but you are denying the ripples, which you may never, ever, ever get to see, but which you can trust will happen whether you observe them or not.
I spent a number of days in the hospital when my mother was ill this past year, and at the Cleveland Clinic, there are these people they're called red coats. They wear a red coat, and their job is to greet people and to send them on the correct path, get to this department or this building. And I watched them connect with people for several days because I was there a lot. And I finally decided I was going to speak to a few of them and find out about how they do what they do. Why do they make such a positive impression? And much of it came down to small compliments that they paid people as they entered, what they were wearing, their energy, just little compliments. And it ended up just connecting them immediately with these people that in some cases were in distress, in many cases just were there to visit somebody. And that was such a positive lesson to me. When I was in Israel, I took all of these steps every single day. I didn't realize how truly meaningful a way of life this is. I organically fell into it, but it has become the lesson of my life.
Yeah. Yeah, and now it's the gift to everybody else who comes across it, which is such a blessing in so many ways. Scott, do you know the Scandinavian game Vertellus?
No.
Okay, give me 1 second. It's right here. Okay. I have to tell you about this because so much of my reading time, I was thinking about this game, which I found on Instagram before, probably in like 2018. And it's this young couple who both had great jobs, but they wanted to quit their jobs and travel the world. And they knew their parents would say, are you crazy? You're not doing that. So one Christmas, they gathered all their family together and they made little note cards that just had big open-ended questions on them. And they did the questions over Christmas dinner. And the last question was something to the effect of, if you could go do anything, what would you do? And so everybody's answering, and it got to them and they said, I would quit my corporate job and I would travel the world. And the conversation had been so incredible that both sets of parents said, you should totally do that. And so they did. And then they turned it into this thing. It's not a game. It's just a series of questions, but it's both questions that you answer about yourself or with other people. And they turned it into all kinds of other things. But we had 16 people with us in England a couple of years ago. And I brought these with me and we did them at dinner one night. And these were people who, in some cases, had never met until they came together. Nobody knew each other really well except for the individual couples. And I got to tell you, every single time we do this, I am struck by the power of open-ended questions, the power of getting a little bit brave, being a little bit vulnerable,
Yes.
deciding I'm going to have a real answer as opposed to a stock answer. I mean, my dad said some stuff that I'm going to tell you I couldn't have learned about him in any other way. It was unbelievable. And you talk so often in this book about meeting someone on a dating app and maybe the date doesn't go anywhere, but it turns into this friendship because you had these hours-long conversations. Can you, just to sort of wrap this up, share with us why that honesty, that vulnerability, that getting real, even with a stranger, is so important from your perspective, and why that really is the brave middle ground?
Yeah, you've said so much in just the anecdote of the cards that you brought to that function. Mm-hmm. Think about the richness that exists in everybody that surrounds you at any given moment, no matter where you are, that the stories, the life experiences, the joys, the tragedies that exist within those people that remain under lock and key when we're afraid to have that opening question. And I would urge everybody to think about their best friend, not a family member, but a best friend, that they just can't live life without, that they couldn't imagine life without. And think about what had to happen for you to meet that person. That whenever you met, whether you were 2 or 10 or 20 or 50, wherever you were, you could have taken an alternate path that day and been late. You could have decided to take another course or go to another college. You could have decided to go on a date with somebody else instead of that person. There were millions of different things that could have deterred you from meeting that person that day. But you didn't. You were there. You had that conversation. And that person is now indispensable to you. There are other people like that around you at this very moment. They're the people on the subway. They're the people in your work that are 3 cubes down. There are people that are related to you that you haven't yet taken the time to really sit down with and find out what they're really about. That takes guts, and it takes curiosity. And it is a gift that is waiting for us to open. We just have to have the bravery to do it.
And the permission, which is what your book really does, is it opens the door of permission and provides the map of how to do the very first tiniest little effort toward the cartwheel, whatever your version of that is. Scott, thank you so much for this time, for the book, for your insight. I just really appreciate this opportunity to have this conversation, and I know my audience is going to feel that way too.
Oh, thank you so much. I loved it.
Thank you. Everyone else, we'll talk soon. Thanks for joining me on Brave Middle Ground. I hope today's conversation inspired you to be audaciously visible and embrace the power of the in-between as you lead in your business, your community, and your life. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your network. Your support grows our community and keeps these meaningful conversations going. To learn more about Audaciously Visible coaching and support with me, head to daynadelval.com for free resources, upcoming events, and ways to work with me. Brave Middle Ground is mixed by Sound Advice, and our music is by Quinn Del Val. Until next time, I'm Dayna Del Val. Stay curious, stay courageous, and stay connected.